Hi, I'm Rajeev Goel, co-founder and CEO of PubMatic, and I'm here today with Ying Wang, who's general manager of advertising at Xumo. And we're here today to talk about the future of streaming television and the CTV marketplace. So Ying, welcome. Tell us a little bit about your role at Xumo and your approach to streaming monetization and how that's evolved over the last couple of years.
Thank you so much for having me here. So Xumo is the streaming device for Comcast and Charter, the two largest internet and cable companies in the US. And also we're a global distributor of fast channels. And so the device business and the fast business work really well together to make sure that viewers can find whatever they want, whenever they want.
So as CTV has exploded over the last couple of years, Xumo has been at the forefront of unique distribution, programming, technology partnerships. What's your philosophy that really differentiates Xumo in this increasingly competitive environment?
So Xumo first started really in the time when there was not a lot of CTV content out there, and it first leaned into distribution, powering content channels across many OEMs. And so one of Xumo's key strengths is our continued distribution and our footprint. So we work and we power many, many fast channels, not just on our own streaming devices, but across many of the other OEMs, so Samsung, LG, Roku, and others. And that gives us actually a lot of reach that people don't realize. So while Xumo may not be a household name yet, we actually are in the majority of CTV households. And then since Comcast and Charter came together to form the joint venture, that gets us even more reach into these cable homes where we are bringing live TV and streaming together.
So in many ways, it's a B2B CTV play,
Yes.
which is pretty unique in our industry. What are some of the challenges that creates not having as much of the consumer recognition as maybe some of your competitors?
Yeah, it's a great point. One of the things I think we're constantly educating our buyers about is how does Xumo fit into their CTV buy? Some people want to bucket us into fast. Some people want to bucket us into a platform. One of the things that we focus a lot on is our audience and how our audience is very incremental to other streaming platforms. So compared to linear, compared to other AVOD and fast, we're like 85% incremental. So we really focus on bringing audience sets that buyers currently aren't getting today and amplifying that through our owned and operated network.
So the relationship between direct sales and programmatic advertising has changed significantly in the last couple of years. You really started with a focus on programmatic. How does Xumo think about leveraging programmatic today? How has that changed, and how do you think it will change in the years ahead?
Programmatic has always been our workhorse. In the beginning, it was a little bit more of the Wild West. Now we have partners like PubMatic who are really helping us bring more transparency into the ecosystem and also bring us relationships that we otherwise wouldn't get. Partners who are focused on unique segments, let's say independent agencies, our direct-to-consumer, are really interesting to us because we're not actively going after some of those markets.
Yeah, so let's drill into the relationship with PubMatic. Programmatic has become essential within the streaming environment from an advertiser perspective. We have a great partnership. What would you say makes that partnership strategic, and what separates technology partners that add real value versus operational overhead?
Partners who really take the time to get to know our inventory, what differentiates us versus just lump us into another category, are really helpful. Working with you guys to curate our inventory into special packages where we stand out, that makes a difference. The client partnership is really important, and your partnership team has been a great partner to us, helping us think through where we can work better together. And then I would also say your relationships with the buyers themselves help to amplify our relationships. You guys have a great relationship with Dentsu, so do we. When we can bring those kind of conversations together, then it really makes it kind of a win-win.
I really like that example of Dentsu because it brings to life supply path optimization and how we can work together with you as a content owner and a distributor, along with the agency, to bring your audiences to market to drive incremental revenue. When you think about the scale that you have, the OEMs, Charter, Comcast, et cetera, how important is that incremental reach in your pitch to advertisers?
It is incredibly important because there's so much CTV supply out there. We power all of NBCU's fast channels. So regardless of where you're accessing that channel on Roku, on LG, or on Xumo Play, that's us monetizing a big portion of it. But NBC is also selling that too. So you have to be really clear on where that inventory is coming from. That's that's why we really lean into the scale, because we don't have our owned and operated content. We are representing content partners, but because we can give them that scale through our distribution, that is a great value for them, and also it brings in new audiences for our advertisers.
So let's talk specifically about live sports, which I think is one of the most exciting areas of programmatic advertising, also a big area of challenge. At PubMatic, we've launched a live sports marketplace powered by AI, where we're able to curate live sports moments where there's high degrees of engagement. How are you looking to tech partners to help you better monetize that key moment in a live sporting event?
Yeah, we've definitely seen more and more live sports migrate to new distribution platforms. You see a lot of these big leagues bringing their content to streaming platforms and now to FAST. We have 30 plus sports channels, over half of which have live sports content. So, for example, NASCAR, they are starting to bring their live races to FAST. Scripps, their ION network, they have women's soccer league as well as WNBA. Tennis channel 24/7. There's beyond just the Wimbledons and the US Opens. There are matches going on all the time. So it's actually giving audiences newer windows into live sports that maybe they didn't know about. And it's also creating fandoms around maybe more niche sports. Pickleball, we have a pickleball channel, billiards, poker. What FAST has done, it's lowered the barrier to entry for content partners who maybe couldn't distribute in a traditional way. But now you're bringing those fans into a new ecosystem. It's definitely more tricky to monetize those live events. You don't know how many people are going to be watching, when the breaks are. And so we look for tech partners to help give us a little more predictability so that we can fill those opportunities.
So let's turn now to AI. So obviously AI is changing many aspects of our industry, from operations to sales strategies. Where are you seeing the biggest opportunity for AI? What's exciting you the most?
There's still so much noise out there in terms of CTV and what signals are important. I think AI is going to play a large role in helping us declutter all of that information of what's noise, what's signal, how do you actually optimize yield, how do you pay attention to all of these different things that are happening literally concurrently. So I'm excited to use AI in our business to manage yield, to grow our revenue. I think the other thing that's really interesting is how AI can bring more interactivity, more personalization, extend the storytelling in CTV so that you bring the offline experiences also online.
We've seen a lot of success in AI with our PubMatic for Buyers suite, as well as PubMatic for Publishers, really just AI enabling a lot of the core customer use cases like deal optimization, audience targeting. Let's talk a little bit about data and intelligence, which are increasingly critical competitive advantages for scaled platforms like yours. How is Xumo thinking about leveraging insights and automation to create better outcomes, smarter outcomes? What role do you see for technology partners like PubMatic to help drive that?
Data is really important to us to be able to actually pinpoint who is watching, what are their psychographics, demographics, and then be able to act on that data. So one of the things that programmatic has helped us do is figure out where our inventory performs the best, what categories, what partners. Then we go to those partners' video investment teams, and then we can upsell them sponsorships or more upper funnel solutions. So that's something that's going to be really important for us, figuring the right product market fit with different advertisers. I think because Xumo, we're a newer entrant, we can't be everything to everyone. And we're spending a lot of time using insights and data to figure out who we can super serve.
So looking ahead over the next 12 to 18 months, where do you see the biggest opportunities or challenges for CTV advertising generally and as it relates to Xumo? And what do you think needs to happen for the industry to reach its full potential?
One of the challenges and opportunities is that most people don't see CTV as a performance medium. I think a lot of partners are starting to show that it can be. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do too, is to say, okay, you saw an ad, how does that actually drive conversion lower down in the funnel? And that's what I'm really excited about. Essentially making CTV a full funnel medium and be able to track that conversion and make it really easy to understand exposure to purchase. I think another opportunity really is just making sure that buyers understand what's unique and differentiated between each CTV partner. If you're buying CTV, we're all lumped in one category, and it makes it very hard to compete and sell your differentiation point. So that's a challenge, especially for smaller players, to be able to say, this is why we're unique, this is why we're different. And then now AI has really permeated operations. People are thinking about, how do I create agents to simplify the buying and selling process? I bet DSPs and SSPs will look very different in a few years once that technology is fully integrated. So I'm excited to see how different publishers embrace it. I think it'll be better for the ecosystem, and hopefully we can be on to better, higher value things.
Well, I agree. We see performance advertising in CTV as a huge growth opportunity. We talked about partnerships with Mountain and TV Scientific, right? Two great examples of companies that are on the front edge of driving performance in CTV. Mm-hmm. And I think with combining that with AI, we're going to see a lot more personalization of creative, which in turn will lead to better performance. I do think there's a huge role for AI to play in streamlining a lot of the operations.
Yeah.
And I actually think it'll lead to more opportunity in our ecosystem, because as we automate things and drive better outcomes, I expect advertisers will move more of their budgets, into our industry, and that in turn will lead to more employment, and that employment will be, let's say, more interesting, more value-add things that humans can do.
Like AI will let us test and learn a lot faster.
Yes.
Even when we try to experiment with changing our ad load or creative formats, it takes so long to try something new and to get results. What that technology will help us do is very quickly experiment with different formats, know what works, iterate, repeat, and I'm excited to see how that evolves our industry.
Well, we definitely have to talk about the streaming wars, right, which has been going on for the last couple of years. I'd love your view on, do you think those streaming wars are mostly over, or are there still many more battles to come?
I definitely don't think it's over. There is still a lot of consolidation that will be happening both on the technology side and the publisher side. And a lot of media companies are trying to figure out how they can go to market a little bit more efficiently. Being a publisher isn't enough anymore. You need a direct consumer relationship. You need data about the customer and to show outcomes. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are more partnerships that are bringing the publishing aspect together with the commerce aspect.
So given the state of play, what would be your advice to other streamers? What should they be focused on in order to stay competitive and be able to continue to invest in their businesses?
That's something we think about every day. And one of the things I tell my team is we can't be everything to everyone. So let's make sure we know what we're really strong at and double down on that. No one's buying impressions anymore. So you're either selling audiences, you're selling content, you're selling outcomes, or you're selling high impact. Like that's pretty much the 4 different ways you can monetize CTV. So which one are you going to be really good at? How do you stand out? Because there's plenty of other people doing the other things, and you can just be a drop in the bucket if you're spread too thin.
So specialization is really critical.
Yeah.
All right, so let's help our audience understand you a little bit better. If you weren't in streaming and advertising, if our industry didn't exist, what would your career be instead?
Yeah, so I started my career actually out in journalism. I wanted to be a TV producer because I love storytelling. I just love this idea of being able to take information, shape it, and help actually change the world. So I would love to do something in that area, and I think good journalism is more critical now than ever.
Well, a true content creator working in ad tech. I love that.
Exactly.
Speaking of content, so what's your favorite streaming show in the last 12 months that you'd like to recommend to the audience?
I will say HBO has had a bit of a renaissance. Gilded Age, Hacks, White Lotus, but there's just a lot of great kind of content that engages different aspects of my mind. So I would say, all of those things.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ying. I will check out those shows. It's been a great pleasure to connect with you. Appreciate your coming in.
Of course. Thanks so much for the conversation.